Welcome to the True North 365 podcast, where we bring valuable information the world needs to hear to live out their true potential, realizing they have everything they need inside of them to go higher, reach their dreams every single day of the year. We bring guests on the show who are living out their dream life to showcase their work, dig into the climb they endured to get from where they were to where they are today, exposing the entrepreneurial myth that it's all easy. In addition to smaller bite-sized clips of me just sharing my everyday thoughts on business, family, spirituality, and general well-being. So sit back, turn it up, and enjoy the episode. We're so grateful you're here. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in for another wonderful episode of True North 365, where we bring you some of the best entrepreneurs here in the United States and around the world to really talk about what they did to get to where they are today, and if they go through any of the ups and downs that we kind of hear about, but sometimes don't believe, because some people, like our guest today, just seems to have it all together. Like, you were born this way. You've been doing this your whole life, right? Like you came out as who you are. And so I'm so honored and so excited to have our guest here today. His name is Carney, and we've known each other for about maybe 4 months or so now. We're in a networking group together called BNI. It's been transformational for my business, and he's been a big part of that because of his energy. Anytime that I've walked into the room, he's got a big smile on his face. And I remember when he was in there one day, and it was a snowy day and we weren't exactly excited about it. And he said, "Now look at the mountains. Now look at me. Now look at the mountains. Then back at me. Now I'm not as majestic as those mountains, but I just thought you'd want to see a good view." And I thought that was just classic. It was awesome. Like, somebody that can make everyone laugh. He brings the room up. So I hope he does the same for you. So who exactly am I talking about, and why is he here with us today? So Carney is here with us today, and he is a part of a company called FireStarter, and they help companies be seen on Google. So, when you're on Google and you're searching for something, and you usually, at least I do, I go to the first person. And I'm not going to lie, I click the first person, I will click who has good reviews, and that's usually who I go to. I can remember a handful of times in my 31 years of being on Earth where I've actually clicked on the second page. And that was because I was looking for something extremely specific. But when I'm looking for something that's more broad, and even if it is specific, I shouldn't say that. When I'm looking for something, I rarely go to the second page. So what Kyle does is he helps people get on the first page and really grow their company. And, Kyle, I'm so excited that you're here, and I've talked a lot just introducing you. So I want to hand the mic over to you for a moment or two or 5 or 10, however many moments you want, to introduce yourself and tell us more about who you are, and correct anything that I've said that maybe I may have messed up.
No, I think you did a great job. Kyle Carney. I'm a Colorado native, so born and raised here in Colorado. Absolutely love it. Love everything that it has to offer. Love the people and all that good stuff. My background is my dad works for Covey, and so he's always been big into like the 7 habits of highly effective people and things along those lines. And he's always been in that business type environment. So from a very early age, I knew that I wanted to go into business. After I got over my dreams of becoming a professional athlete or something like that, I knew that business was kind of the right route for me. And so in school, I studied marketing and business management. And then right out of school, I went to a custom software company. And they were a pretty established company, but they had one product that was just kind of on the shelf. It was bringing in I think it was maybe $100 or $200 a month, something like that. It was like nothing, and we had been hired for a different project, or I'd been hired for a different project. And then I went to the owner and I said, "Hey, can we, sell this other product that's just kind of sitting there?" And he said, "Yeah, why not? You can try." And it ended up being a really good product, and it was awesome to be able to build that up. So by the time that I left, we ended up building up a full sales team eventually and scaling up big time. So we took it from really just about nothing all the way to, I think when I left, we were doing about 50,000 a month, something like that in revenue. And anyway, awesome, just truly invaluable experience for me to see what it was like to scale a business up and the challenges that come with, with trying to figure out marketing efforts and who your target market is and sales channels and all of that stuff. It was really a really valuable experience for me. And so fast forward a little bit, with FireStarter, it was a similar situation in that it was an established company. FireStarter had been around for about 5 years, and the owner reached out to me. He knew that I had this background in trying to build businesses and scale up, and he said, what's it going to take? And so here I am, and I think what I've learned most in my career path so far is I'm just passionate about helping businesses grow. Not just my business that I'm working with, but helping other businesses grow too, which is a perfect fit for SEO because when you do it right, it can be an extremely powerful catalyst to help a business owner reach their vision. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, which is why I immediately asked you to come on the podcast after our first one-to-one, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is what it's all about is enjoying the climb, right? And
Sure.
enjoying the day-to-day operations and just falling in love with it like a relationship, right? Because being in business is similar to being in a relationship. Some days you're all about it, and other days you're like, this is really hard.
Right.
Yeah. And so let's I would love to dive in a little bit more into into what you do, right? Because we have a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this podcast that really want to learn from the guests that we have on the show based on their expertise. And then we can dive in a little bit more into how do you manage everything that you have going on? What podcasts are you listening to? Are you listening to music in the car? Are you listening to a book? Like, what's going on there? So we'll dive into that a little bit. But first, what you're doing and at FireStarter is just so, I think it's critical for companies that want to grow and do it correctly to work with you, right? And to be able to use tricks and tips that you guys have. So can we dive in a little bit into when you start working with someone, what are you looking at? What can people do in order to either organic, like if they're working on their own, get over onto the first page of Google, or if they are just getting started in business, what are some do's and don'ts? Like, these are just some examples, of course, I'm throwing out, but what can these people do to really get going?
Yeah, that's a great one. So when we first get introduced to a company, before we even start working with them, the very first thing that we do is we take a look at what keywords or what really they're going after, what they're trying to show up for on Google. And so, in the SEO world, we talk a lot about keyword things like that. To simplify it, all it really means is, what do you want to show up for when someone does a Google search? So for us, for FireStarter SEO, we want to show up when someone searches for Denver SEO company or best SEO company near me or like that, right? So in a similar sense, we need to find what our clientele are searching. So if we're working for for example, if we're working for a fencing company, we need to find what their customers are searching for. Are they looking for best fences near me? Are they looking for picket fences? What are they actually searching for? And I'd say probably the biggest takeaway is, even when they have a current SEO company, so even if they're working with someone right then, a lot of times we see that strategy is off. They're not targeting things that actually make sense. A good example is, we had done work, or we had been approached by a photographer, right, in the local area, and she came to us and she said, yeah, I just really need help. And we looked, and she had like 150 that were on the first page when she came to us and said, well, why are you coming to us if you're doing so well? And she said, well, I'm not getting any calls. I'm not really getting any business from it. And so when we take a look at that, we learned that those keywords that she was targeting no one was searching for those things, you know, and you have the ability as a small business owner, you don't need an SEO company to do that. You can go on to Google Keyword Planner. It's part of Google's AdWords platform. And you can see exactly how many times people are searching for a certain keyword. And so that's, for us, it's always step one. And it's something that, yes, it's great that we're experts in that, but it's something that a small business owner can do on their own. And you don't need an SEO company for. So even if you set aside an hour of time to just play around on it and try and start with whatever your core service is, and then start doing keyword searches like near me or in the city that you're serving or things along those lines, and see how many times people are searching those. And if they are, then now you have your next steps. You know what you need to do next in order to start ranking for those. So I'd say that's probably step one when we first bring on board, is we just want to see what their keyword strategy is. And it's surprising how few people actually have a strategy in place, you know. I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you can go to your website right now and you can hover over the tab that you have opened on your browser, and that will tell you what your title is. And most people, if you're on your home page, you hover over that, and the title of that first page is just home, right? And it's all the time. We see it so many times, and it's really just because business owners don't know what to look for. They don't know what to do. And what you're telling Google, if your title of that homepage is home, you're telling Google that you want to show up for anyone who searches the keyword home in Google. For most people, it's not going to actually do anything for them. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So that makes sense. That's usually our first starting point, is figuring out what that keyword targeting strategy is.
And to those that don't know, like, let's say like somebody's just starting and they're building, they're building a website, or they're looking at websites to build on, and you're talking about keywords. What does that mean? I know what it means, but just for our audience, who may not know that college level, wording.
yeah, totally. All we mean when we're talking about keywords, so if you're building your website or looking to expand it, every page on your site should have one specific phrase that you want to show up for on Google, you know? So if you have three services, let's say I'm a spa, right? A salon and spa. And we do haircuts, and we do facials, and we do pedicures. Okay, those are our three different core areas that we serve. On our facials page, we want to make sure that whatever we're doing, all the content that we have on that page revolves around facials. And specifically, we want to make it in the city that we're serving. So if we're in Denver, I want to do Denver Facial Company or something along those lines. You know, what you want is you want those keywords sprinkled in throughout the content. And again, the whole purpose of this is to tell Google, to make it very clear to Google and other search engines that this is what I want to show up for on this page. Google's just a robot, right? Google can't interpret things the way that you and I do. And so it relies on finding these trends and finding these patterns and a couple instances of these certain keywords in order to really understand how they can show up, or how they can get you to show up on their searches. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. Yes. And do you have any recommendations for people when working with a website? Which ones are easier to incorporate keywords into?
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad that you asked that. So one of the biggest mistakes that a business owner can make, and I'm a little apprehensive about saying this, but it's true. A lot of business owners gravitate towards Wix or Weebly.
Sorry about that.
You're popular. You're okay.
Turn it on airplane mode.
Yeah, right. They'll gravitate towards Wix or Weebly or something along those lines, and they're really good sites for someone who, you know, is strapped for cash. You're just trying to bootstrap things. But if you really want to grow your business online, probably not the best platforms. Now, they've made some strides here in the recent past, but still, I highly recommend just get started with a WordPress site. WordPress is extremely SEO friendly. You can get a plugin called Yoast SEO. It's a free plugin. and it makes the core elements of SEO super easy to do. I mean, it'll even walk you through it. It says, hey, what keyword do you want to target on this specific page? So you plug it in, and then it gives you recommendations of what you should do, in order to optimize that page. So my recommendation is go WordPress. It's by far and away the Goliath in the website industry. You can get it at a very affordable price. You can customize it however you want to. And again, it's extremely SEO friendly. So if you can, stay away from Wix. Usually one of our first recommendations, if we find someone who's on Wix, is to say, hey, go to WordPress. You can have the exact same design if you want to. That's fine, but just get it on WordPress so that it's more SEO friendly.
Yep. I agree. I've worked on a few different platforms, and WordPress is definitely one of the best. And
Sure.
I didn't go down the rabbit hole of SEO, so I probably should have stayed on WordPress. But I agree. It's the best platform. I've heard that from multiple people that are in the digital world, right? And advertising type of arenas. Very cool. Very cool. So what else would somebody else, like what other problems would they be having right now in order to work with someone like you?
Yeah. Most business owners who approach us are frustrated at the fact that, when you start a business, you have a vision for what you want to accomplish, to where you want to be. You want to grow your business. You want financial independence. You want peace of mind. You want that American dream, right?
Yeah.
And it's a really frustrating stage when you have your vision and you're prevented from reaching it because you're not getting enough leads. You've invested all this time into building this infrastructure of your business, but you can't grow it. Word of mouth is a phenomenal business tool, but unfortunately, you're limited to a certain network on word of mouth. What SEO does and what digital marketing does is it lets you step outside that limited network through word of mouth and really expand it almost infinitely. I mean, it's a massive reach to people. If you're able to really get some visibility online, then you can scale your business as fast as you want to. So that's usually the stage that business owners are in, and that's their frustrations that they feel is, hey, I want to grow, but I can't. I'm not getting enough leads. I can't hire people. It's a frustrating time, and so that's usually when they come and approach us. Usually most business owners either have never heard of SEO or they've tried SEO and they've been frustrated with it. SEO is just one of those industries, and there's a lot of them out there where it's the perfect example of the 80-20 rule. 20% of companies, of SEO companies, are really good. I mean, genuinely, you're going to get great results with them. But then the other 80% are really not experts. They're trying to make a couple extra bucks. They don't know what they're doing. And in the end, they end up it's like you're putting your money down a paper shredder. You're really not getting it. You know what I mean? So that's probably what I'd say most business owners are in when they come in and approach us.
Awesome. And is there anything else that people should know about your business and your services before we move on to my favorite part, which is talking about growth and mindset and all those wonderful things?
Yeah, I would say that, and it's not just with us, anytime you're looking for an SEO company or a digital marketing company, look for transparency. And the reason why is this is stuff that it's not secret sauce. If you do a little bit of research, you'll understand, hey, here's how SEO works. Here's how we can get online visibility. And you want to find a company who's upfront with you about that and who will educate you. Don't go with someone who's hiding behind a flat fee and they won't tell you what their deliverables are. They won't tell you the reason behind what they're doing. So I would say definitely look out for that. And then the other thing is SEO is an investment. A really important thing for people to understand is that it is not like flipping a light switch. It really isn't. It's a long-term play. And historically, the return on investment for SEO is unbelievable. I mean, genuinely, it's incredible when you can approach it with the long game in mind, But if you're looking for a quick fix, if you're looking for instant results, you're going to end up being frustrated. Google even says, hey, give an SEO company anywhere from 4 to 12 months to start getting results for you. And so, when you're looking at it, just make sure that you're willing to give it time, because it's truly a process of accumulation. With any investment, an investment advisor is usually not going to tell you, hey, hey, do this for 1 month and then you're done, right? Usually they're going to say, hey, it takes consistency, it takes patience, and when you have that, then you can really, really get some positive returns. So it's the same thing with SEO. So I'd say look for those things, look for transparency, look for education, and look for something that fits within your budget for a long period of time.
Yeah, well, what a great segue into entrepreneurship, right? Like consistency and patience, and knowing that over time with those two variables, you can see success. And so when you had mentioned that you would join a newer company, and I think it was this the company that was this the hospice company, or was this a company with the MLM? It was the hospice company.
Same company, but the hospice product was the product. So
wow.
It was a custom software company, and they did the MLM software as kind of a off-the-shelf product for MLMs to track their down channels and all that stuff. But that thing that they kind of stashed away on the shelf was this hospice software. So end of life care, right? It was an electronic medical record for hospice, and they weren't doing anything.
Mm-hmm. You're like, hey, you guys want to do something with this? And they're
totally.
like, yeah.
I know, it really was just sitting there, and it was just one of those, not awkward conversations. It was kind of an amusing conversation where we said, hey, can we do this? And the owner's just like, sure, go for it. And then the rest was history. So
yes.
Yeah.
So have you always been a creative person when it comes to thinking outside the box like that? Because you were pretty young. You had just came out of college when you were doing that, right?
Right. Yeah, it was. I'm trying to remember what even inspired it, other than, we just saw it sitting there, and I think you're young, you're hungry, and being in a marketing and sales role, you're looking for opportunities to advance and to grow, and so it was just kind of sitting there, and we thought, why not? Why not see if we can sell this thing and build this thing up? And I feel like I've always had a little bit of a creative bone in me. It's, I don't know, I can't put a finger on it necessarily, but I think when opportunity presents itself, I think more than anything else, I'm comfortable with taking risks. I'm not super risk averse. I'm kind of in the middle to the end of risk aversion. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'll take risks if I feel like that there's opportunity. And that's kind of what this was. Is I had nothing to lose, and luckily I had a lot to gain. So yeah, it's a good question.
Well, and I think that people can, and this is, I'm speaking for myself, and for, whenever we speak for ourselves, we're usually speaking for a group of other people too, right? Because if we have that thought, other people do too. And just being that, having that perfectionism and wanting to do everything perfect and do it right. And then, and then being creative and taking a risk. And so when you're looking at opportunities, and you're working with someone, and this is for you working with a client, anybody working for a client, and you're saying, hey, give me 4 to 12 months and we can help, we can really get this going. You just got to trust me. How do you manage your own doubts and worries or fears? And also on the other side, how do you manage their worries, doubts, and fears? I mean, and this goes back also to like the beginning of FireStarter, and then how you're doing it today, and where that gap, how did you shorten that gap?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. So there's a couple parts to that question.
Yes, there are. Yeah.
As far as managing our own doubts, that has resolved itself pretty firmly. I don't have a whole lot of doubts anymore about our ability to help them. The hardest part about what I do is educating them that, hey, this is a long-term play. You know, that is the single hardest thing. And with everyone that we work with, we say, hey, listen, you know, if you're going to do this, you can get great results, but you've got to give it time. You know, if you stop services before even 6 months, you're probably going to have wasted your money. You know, you're going to lose all that momentum. And so for me, I have the utmost confidence that we can get good results. There are very, very few exceptions, and those are in extremely competitive industries where competitors are forking over tons of money, and the business owner who wants to do SEO doesn't have the means to compete with that, you know. But those are very, very few and far between. I'd say 90, 95% of the time, we know we can get results for a client. And so it's more of managing their doubts and their fears. I think a lot of that stems from their past experience with SEO. I mentioned earlier, you know, there's a lot of just amateur companies out there who do SEO. And that's okay, you know, maybe at the time the business owner went with them, it was the right move, and that's okay. But the business owner's been burnt in the past. You know, they felt like they've wasted their money. There's something in them that says SEO should work. You know, this digital marketing thing should work, but it just hasn't worked for me yet. And so for us, I think probably the best way to manage that is we're very data driven, you know. So we can point to specific case studies that we've had where we can say, hey, listen, someone we've worked with was in your exact position. You know, they were frustrated, they were anxious about investing again, but look what happened, you know. The other side is when we present an opportunity to someone, again, we use a lot of statistics and information. So we say, hey, you know, for these 5 keywords, there are 800 people searching for those services every single month. You know, if we can get you on the first page, then it's just a numbers game. You know, if a certain percent of people come to our website every month, we know about, you know, 30 to 50% of those are actually going to contact you, and whatever your close rate is, then there you go. You can kind of work the math in your head. So the question is how can we get you onto that first page? And usually those concerns are resolved. You know, I think that transparency is key, and taking more of a data-driven approach rather than making it about guesswork or a hunch or anything like that. You know, and it helps that we've been there too. You know, I mean, we do our own SEO. We get it, you know, and it's just tough. It's tough for a business owner, especially if they've been burned in the past. So that's probably the biggest challenge, I'd say.
Yep. I completely agree. I had a situation where I worked at a startup company, and we paid a woman a lot of money to do our SEO, and we did not get a lot of anything. It was pulling teeth just to get meetings with her. So I think, you know, just what's coming to mind is also like, don't be afraid to ask for references, especially when it comes to, hey, we're gonna require this amount up front, but here's how we believe we're going to be able to return your investment, you know, times 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, whatever the return is,
Sure.
You know, in 12 to 24 months, you know, however long they keep you on to do that. And maybe, you know, just what I wish I would have done when I worked with an SEO company, when I was at a company that needed that, I mean, every company needs it, right? So I shouldn't have said it like that. Like every company needs an SEO person. But don't be afraid to ask for clients. Like, you know, talk to previous clients and see, hey, how did it go? Or current clients, and how's the interaction, and make sure that the energy fits well, because that stress and tension, it's good to find like an ideal client and an ideal, like, you know, you'd be a client. No, you wouldn't be a client. They'd be a client of yours, but finding a good match personality wise too, I'm sure helps with making a large investment like this, or any investment. You know, it's a principle.
Yep. I think you're absolutely right. You know, it's got to be a relationship of trust. Has to be, you know, because the business owner is taking a risk. With SEO, there's no guarantees. You know, and so, you know, if you're going to take a risk, you want to be able to trust the person who you're working with. So great advice.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So when you started at FireStarter, I mean, because gosh, the way that you talk, the way that you present yourself, it's almost like Kyle Carney has no problems. Kyle Carney is just every day is a perfect day. It's just I wake up and I get ready to go to work. I have because you have your wife and you have oh my gosh, you have one daughter, right? Is it just
Two little
two?
girls.
Oh yeah, you have a toddler and a baby.
Yes.
And
Yep.
the toddler's the one that did all the oil bath, right? The
Yes,
essential oil
she's the one that took the oil bath.
bath. That's right. Okay, so yeah, like Kyle Carney wakes up, he has his wife and his two little girls, and they have their bows on and their perfect hair. Like that's how I see you. So am I seeing the reality, or do you struggle sometimes with maintaining your joyful, charismatic personality? How do you do this? How does Kyle have this life?
Well, thank you. First and foremost, thank you very much. Yeah, everyone has struggles. I'm blessed because in most cases, I really try and be fairly positive. I always joke. This is like the nerdiest joke in the world. But in the office, I'll say, "Hey, man, I am a proton. I am always positive." You know what I mean? That's that's what I want to be. But I mean, any small business owner can relate to this. You've got a lot of challenges. Whether it's financial struggles. FireStarter. We've grown quite a bit, but we've sure had our fair share of financial challenges in the past. We've overcome a lot, which is awesome. And that can be that is an element that will trickle down to every aspect of your life. It impacts not just you, but your spouse, I'm sure is fairly aware of stuff like that. When it's tight, it can be really tough. But more than that, there's challenges with clients that you work with. I mean, it's just kind of the normal course of doing business. That's kind of what makes entrepreneurship so inspiring, is people who are able to overcome those challenges in different ways. You know what I mean? So to answer your question, the short answer is, I try and be happy. I try and be positive, even in spite of challenges that I face. So I promise you that my life is not all sunshine and flowers and everything like that. But you know what? I'd much rather focus on trying to put out some positive energy than dwell on whatever those challenges are. And so I guess that's my little philosophy. It's just try and be positive. I had a basketball coach who said, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. And so, that's actually, as cliche as that might sound, that's actually been something that has impacted me and the mindset that I've taken in a lot of different areas. So, yeah, I don't know. I hope that answers your question.
Good. It cracked open a few areas of opportunity for me. So
Sure.
so you're staying positive, you're staying optimistic, and helping these business owners, and which can be it can present opportunities for stress, right? And the reason I'm trying to tie this together is for our audience that are in business and that are struggling, right? And they're like, man, how do I operate like Kyle does? The question is, when you are faced with these challenges, what tools are you using? We briefly highlighted earlier about podcasts, right? And I know when you and I first had our first meeting, when we had our first time, the first time. You had mentioned listening to podcasts, right? And doing things like that. So tell us a little bit more about what podcast are you listening to? What's been a really inspirational person in your life, of a book you read, or are you working out every day? Like, how are you staying positive especially right now during this pandemic, right? Like, a lot of people are struggling. So what advice do you have for them during these times or other times that they might face in the future?
Yeah, for this pandemic especially, it's been interesting because we're all working from home now, or at least most of us are. And I'm really lucky because our business, we're internet marketing. So, I mean, we don't actually even need an office. We could function fully just from home if we wanted to. So we haven't really missed a beat as far as work goes, working from home. We're doing fine there, but it's still, I mean, if you're cooped up in your house all day long and all that fun stuff, it can be hard. But I think for me, I have taken extreme joy in being home. I'm lucky enough that my wife, she's a stay-at-home mom and she's got the kiddos. So during the work day, I can work with pretty much no interruptions. But I think one of the big differences that I've noticed is I'm home and we've been slammed. Like, it's been a really weird time because we've stayed super, super busy throughout this whole thing. But interesting because it's not like I'm getting more breaks. It's not like I'm working less. In fact, I'm probably working more from home than I was even at the office. But what's interesting is those little 5 to 10 minute breaks I get to spend with my daughters and my wife. You know what I mean? And it's not a lot, but that's the kind of thing that re-energizes me. And it's your why. We always talk about starting with why with Simon Sinek, and for me, my family is my why. So that's something that inspires me. To your question about podcasts, there's one podcast in particular that I've loved. It is Entrepreneurs on Fire. Entrepreneurs on Fire by John Lee Dumas. It is phenomenal, and it reminds me of your podcast because all he does is he hops on and he interviews entrepreneurs. He learns about what their challenges were, how they overcame them, and I mean, the model's the exact same model for every single podcast. So it's not like you're surprised by what kind of content there's going to be, but it's phenomenal. And it lights you on fire a little bit. And it says, okay, you know what? There's other business owners out there who have gone through what I've gone through, and they've experienced similar challenges and they overcame it, and so can I. So that's been a fantastic one. I really like Donald Miller's Building a Story Brand. He has a great podcast as well. I think there's one other thing, and this isn't a podcast, but what you were talking about earlier reminded me of it. I alluded to, for a while, FireStarter had some financial struggles. We were trying to figure everything out, and just kind of the nature of growing a business, hiring people, and figuring out how to keep a positive cash flow and all that fun stuff. There was a book that we came across, and it's called Profit First. And that book has changed the entire landscape of our business. And it came at the perfect time. We were figuring a lot of stuff out, and the whole principle of it is, hey, you're getting this amount of money in every single month, but you get to the end of the month and you wonder where everything went. Like, you should be profitable, but you're not. So what's going on? Profit First is about restructuring the way that you handle your finances, and we've been doing it for probably 1.5 years now, and I'm telling you, it has been a total game changer for us. I mean, 100% game changer for our company. So that's one thing that was a perfect example of, hey, we're going through these tough times. We come across this book, this resource, and it was life-changing. It was phenomenal.
Profit First.
Yeah.
Cool.
I recommend it to every single business owner out there. Every single business owner, it's fantastic.
Yeah. And we talked about reading when we first talked in our first meeting, and about instead of in the car, instead of listening to music, jump on a podcast, get inspired, and know that it's just day by day, it's just minute by minute, moment by moment. Sometimes it seems like you just want to quit because it's tough, and then you have as the months and years go by, you have more good days than bad days, and just doing the next right thing and doing the next thing right, and show up and be honest, and like you said at the beginning, like, be transparent. People can read us better than we think they can, like
Sure.
the mask that we wear, and the the imposter syndrome, and being like, well, I'm trying to be this person that's brave and that's successful and that knows what they're doing, but I'm just getting started. So when they're doing that, like, you went to school for marketing, so you jumped in, and then you started at a company that gave you the opportunity to learn from. And what would you tell others that are just coming out of college? Like, where should they look to invest their time and energy? How did you do that?
Yeah, boy, that's another really good question. I for me, I felt like with that company that I signed on with right out of school, I felt like it presented some really good growth opportunities. So I was leaning more towards the small business world, really from the beginning. There's nothing wrong with going into big corporations or anything like that, but the amount of experience that you get in such a short amount of time with small business is unbelievable. So it's not for everybody. It really is not for everybody. But if I'm coming out of college, small business presents a huge opportunity to wear a lot of hats, to figure things out. I mean, we always talk about how, if you go into business, you need an MBA after school because you've got all that experience. You learn the hard way and you learn it fast, because you're juggling a lot and you're really trying to figure some of that stuff out. So for someone coming out of college, I would definitely not write off a small business. You can do phenomenal things, and it's amazing. I think we talked about this in our first meeting, right? We talked about this, that in a big company, you're kind of just another cog in the machine. You know what I mean? Like, you really are, and the company could be a phenomenal company and could be doing great things, but the impact that you personally have is probably not as substantial as it could be if you are in small business. We talk about how, from an SEO standpoint, if we can get someone who, or if we can add another $100,000 a year in revenue to a small business, that can be life-changing. Whereas if we add another $100,000 a year to a big corporation, it's really just, cool, good job, next. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So in a very similar sense, your personal impact by working in a small business can be just as impactful as that. You're really helping change lives. And I know it sounds, again, cliche, but it's true. It is genuinely true. It's extremely impactful.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Great advice, Kyle. Great advice. I couldn't agree more. With small businesses, you do have an opportunity to really jump in, and you can, especially our younger people that listen to this, they have a lot of energy. They have a lot of time. They typically, coming out of college, you usually don't have a family, like with little kids and a spouse. Like, you can dive all in, and a small business will really appreciate that. And it's good on the resume. It's good for experience. Like you said, you can earn your MBA working at a small business, especially one that just be getting started, a newer one, maybe not right out of college, like maybe a little bit more of established small company, just so there's some processes in place. Because when you join a startup, and maybe, college kids, I don't know, nowadays they're probably way more smarter than I was when I was coming out of college. So they got it together. There's lots of tools out there, and millennials are wicked smart, so they can figure it out. But going into a brand new company, I think it requires a level of maturity, to where it's your ego has to be completely out the door, because everyone's doing the best they can, and there's going to be a lot of changes and a lot of shifting going on to help the company, for everyone to rise together and to achieve those goals together. It just takes vulnerability, and it can, and being humble and kind and generous with your time and resources and energy. And, and some people are ready for that, So I'm in total agreement with you. Yeah.
I just finished most of my schoolwork.
Yep. Okay, cool. Go read or do something. We'll be done soon. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. That's my little guy
Awesome.
checking in on us, letting us know
Good.
he has accomplished his goals for the day.
What's up? How are you?
Hi.
I don't know if anything that I ever say on these podcasts or on any of my phone calls sinks into his actual brain, but there's always a chance.
I'm sure it does. I bet it's more than you know.
More than I know. Yeah. Like, go to college, achieve your goals, hint, hint.
Right.
Oh, well, awesome, dude. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I think our audience has too. Is there anything else that you feel like is important for people to know that are either just in the entrepreneurial island, that feel like they're all alone, that may just need that extra, like you said, when you're listening to Entrepreneurs on Fire, or the Telling Your Story podcast, right? When you need that extra oomph, what's the one thing you would tell someone that you think would keep them going?
I would say, I think you would surprise yourself with how capable you actually are to overcome challenges. I think if there's anything I've learned about myself or working with other small business owners, people have this incredible ability to overcome whatever challenge they're facing with, or whatever challenge they're faced with. And so I would say keep going. There is going to be light at the end of the tunnel. And there are a lot of other people who've experienced similar challenges that you as a small business owner have experienced. Reach out to them. There are so many resources, like you mentioned. Go listen to some Entrepreneurs on Fire. Go listen to your podcast, Alex. Draw from the experience of others, especially in those times of need and frustration. Lean on other people's experiences to get you through it. But necessity is the mother of invention, right? I guarantee you will be shocked at how capable you are of continuing to overcome, adapt, and evolve. And when you come out the other side, you're going to be so grateful that you stuck with it versus throwing in the towel. So that's probably all I'd say.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Yep. Whoop, 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 whoop. Great. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Kyle. And how can people get in touch with you if they want to, just learn more about your business, possibly work with you and be one of your clients? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So our website is FireStarter SEO.com. Reach out on the website. My email is really easy. It's Kyle, Kyle, at FireStarter SEO.com. And then you're also welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I would love to do that. And another plug I'd put is one of the things that we really pride ourselves on, and Alex, I know you're the same way, is we've got a built-in network of businesses all around the country. And if you as a business owner need help with something, maybe it's not SEO at the time, but you need help with something else, let us know. We are happy to be actors. We really want to help small businesses. We believe in the small business world and the small business experience. So whatever we can do there, we'd be happy.
Cool. Yeah, a little plug for BNI. Join a BNI chapter, everybody.
Totally.
Join ours.
Yes.
Yes. Great. All right, Kyle. Well, till next time, thank you for just following your true north and doing it for what seems to be 365 days out of the year and inspiring others to do the same. We really appreciate you sharing your time with us.
Well, thank you. This was awesome.
Yep. My pleasure. All right. Well, till next time.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Cool.
All right, guys, that is a wrap. I'm so grateful that you took the time out of your day to sit back, relax, and listen to the show. If you enjoyed what you had to hear, go ahead and drop us a comment. We're always looking for other people to join us on the show, to give us their feedback so we can keep delivering high-quality content over and over again throughout the year. Hope you're having a great day or night wherever you're at, and we will talk to you next time.